Hey, Doc Steph here, and thank you for tuning in to Let's Heal Together. I want to talk about accepting criticism and why it is important. The word criticism may make you cringe, which may indicate that you have a tough time accepting criticism. Don't worry, we all do at some point in our lives or past. I chose criticism as my first topic because it may be one of the reasons that keep us from succeeding or growing. It is safe to assume that most people have at least some issue with criticism or negative feedback. When I talk about criticism, I'm speaking of constructive criticism, the type of criticism that will help you grow or lead to self-improvement. However, constructive criticism is hard to swallow. Who wants to be told they are wrong or doing something poorly? The thing is, being open to criticism is integral to your success. Recognizing when you are wrong is the first step towards adjusting your course of action until you are right. Let me go further if you want to learn how to accept criticism gracefully. From my experience, my typical reaction to criticism or constructive feedback um, began when I was young, as early as my mid 20s. It was hard for me to accept criticism from my supervisor or coworkers because, in my thinking, I was right and believed in my thoughts. I did not care what they said or did and did what I wanted to do. And that was because, when you're young and you're starting out and you in the workforce and you just believe whatever your thoughts are telling you, whatever you're doing is right and everyone else is wrong. That was just me. Okay. Another thing was, growing up as the youngest of my siblings, I was always told what to do and everything I did was wrong. So when I turned what I consider adult age, I decided to do things my way and took that attitude into the workforce. It just felt like everyone was telling me what to do in my life and work. I'm grown, right? I will make my own decision. Does this sound familiar to anyone? All criticism also seemed like I was being told I was dumb or ignorant. So I thought, I'm not dumb and you got issues too. My response was to express how I felt about the way they conducted themselves to take the emphasis off of me, to take, the focus off of me. But I was. I mean, ignorant of new ideas, possibilities, and opportunities. So, we have to think about that because when we close ourselves off to criticism, we're closing off new opportunities to learn about ourselves and new ideas to do things differently or to even learn something new. The other point is times when receiving criticism ended up improving my life. So there's a flip side to receiving criticism. For instance, my first time invested in a 401k plan at work, my coworker said, "No, Stephanie, um, if the employee is matching up to 6%, take the high end and invest 6%." And I looked at her, like, you crazy. Maybe you can afford that at your level, but I need all my money. So I only invested 3%. What happened was when I left the company, I only received half the money I would have gotten if I had listened. So then I'm thinking back, well, she told me to dang, if I had a listen, I would have more money than this, which was it was a lot of money, but I would have had much more. Whereas I was able to live off of my investment for a year versus 2 or 3 years without having to work. Then another time, my father was criticizing me because I wanted to, I was showing him all the jobs that was applying for, and he was telling me about one particular job, and I was like, well, they're not paying anything, So my father said, stop looking for jobs for the money and find a job with good benefits. I thought that was insane. I was like, I need money. I need to make some money. I'm thinking about the present. I did not have a clue as to what he was talking about when he benefits. As I continued to grow, I realized that those benefits would help me build a promising future rather than receive more money than benefits with nothing to show for my hard work. Because remember, life happens and money could be gone in an instance, but benefits can last for quite some time. Like I was saying with the 401k, the benefits, that I received, you lose a job, you have those benefits where, you know, you can live off for a year or two or have a long, live off to until you get yourself back on your feet. So we have to start, listening to some wisdom, get an understanding and not just cut off and feel like, they criticizing you. Don't cut it off. Really think about what they say and give it a try. One time my manager said, Stephanie, you don't like to be told what to do, right? I said, I know what to do daily. I don't need somebody telling me what to do every day. Then he said, well, what if I told you to do something different? How would you handle change? And I'm like, that question surprised me. And I did not have an answer. I realized that change is difficult to handle if you do not take the time to listen to others that may present new ideas and opportunities to learn something, for you to learn something different, you know. So what he was saying was, you may be thinking I'm telling you to do the same thing every day, but if you don't take the time to listen, you may miss out on something new I'm telling you to do. You may be missing out on learning something new or learning a new skill or even learn how to think critically. So we miss these opportunities, you know, of people telling you. And at the same time, think about it. He was telling me something about myself that I don't like to be told what to do. That was his perspective or how he saw me as an individual, which could hinder me in my future. So, we have to learn to listen to some of the things that people are telling us that's above us or people that's giving us a different perspective. So I want to just talk about some little tips, give you my experiences and also some feedback. So the first one is, are they worthy to criticize you? The first step towards accepting criticism is to consider the source. It may sound mean or harsh, but you shouldn't care about everyone's opinion. Are you getting criticism from someone you respect? That is worth considering. If you are getting criticism from some habitual complainer you couldn't care less about, or, so ignore them and move on. So it's important. The source of criticism can impact how we react or respond. And I'll tell you why. So here's in my experience. As a child, I developed low self-esteem and shyness at the hands of loved ones or those over me. Therefore, it seemed like everything they said was criticism. They were criticizing me, talking down to or about me and making me feel not good enough. So that right there was having an impact because I didn't have, because of the way that I felt or how I received the things that they were saying to me. it had an impact on me. Like, here's an example. In middle school, one of my teachers said, I got two Stephanies, and one is cute. What is that to speak to a child? How do you respond to that? For me, it made me wonder which one she was talking about going into my high school years. So it lingered for years. I learned that the teacher spoke something negative into my life and planted a seed for me not to be comfortable with my looks. So it does have an impact of who the person is and how we respond to it, or how we will allow it to impact our lives. Um, but further in life, my response to criticism today differs from how I reacted in the past. I have a mentor today whom I deeply respect. Every time we talk over the phone, I keep a pen and paper on hand. We laugh about it, but I'm so serious about it because he is the prophetic voice that continuously guide me in the right direction. I speak to him honestly with my thoughts, and he responds to me with wisdom. I have a few close friends and family in my circle that instantly let me know when I am wrong, and I reflect on their corrections. Why? Because the people in my life provide criticism in love, which taught me to respond to others in love. Words from people who do not have our best interests at heart, the hurt can linger within us for a long period of time. So we have to be careful, but at the same time, we have to um, learn how to reflect on the criticism that is received in order to know how to respond, whether this person is worthy to criticize me or not. And two, monitor your first reaction. A lot of times our flight and fight or fight instinct might kick in when we first hear criticism. Try to suppress this initial reaction until you consider the criticism. You don't want to get too angry or clam up and run away immediately. There's nothing wrong with taking some time before responding to someone, because you know it might not be what we thought it initially was. So schedule a follow up meeting to give yourself time to think about your response. Um, my initial reaction to criticism became, I will cut you before you cut me. My tongue became a sword, so you better watch what you say to me. Because I just wasn't going to let you say anything to me and I not, respond back, you know. But that was not who I was on the inside. I was trying to keep the criticism from making me feel bad about myself, or, not to take it in or feel bad, after it was given to me. One time my manager wanted to meet with me to say I was giving another employee more attention than his work needs. So I became so emotionally distraught, and I even sat there and cried, you know. And then I defended myself with excuse by giving excuses and try to throw it back on them as being the cause of their own criticism. You know, I was like, well, you don't give me any work and da 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 da. I just wanted to just throw it back on them and say, no, look what you done to me. Look what you done to me. So I was fault blaming, without really listening to what he was trying to tell me. And then there was other times I would shut down and chew on the criticism for a while. I would replay it over and over again in my mind. I would be mad at the person for some time, which meant killing them with silence. Or I would be embarrassed and shy away. So killing them with silence meant that, I was still angry and I had nothing to say to them. And I was trying to hurt them with silence, okay, for saying what they said to me. And then other times I would be embarrassed by, what they said, and So I was too embarrassed to be around them, or so I would just shy away. So we have to be careful, with our reactions. We all have these similar, maybe similar reactions, but we can grow from them. And number three, embrace the chance to learn. At the end of the day, criticism is nothing more than a chance to learn about yourself. Instead of fearing criticism, welcome it. Try to be more curious. You might not like what you hear, but you will know what to adjust or other areas of improvement you can work on. And what I found is that there's two benefits that I found I gained from criticism over the years. One being, I learned that improving myself is more important than protecting my ego or pride, which is something that we do when we are prideful. How dare you say that to me or about me? Number two, I realized that where I'm lacking helps me to succeed more in my business and life. And that comes from awareness, either self awareness or being conscious of yourself or allowing someone to see the things that you don't see so that you can improve on them, um, especially in areas of your work or where you want to succeed in life. So, my thoughts is learning um, does not stop when school ends or when we graduate high school. Life within itself will continue to teach us many things. Learning about ourselves is a lifelong lesson. We cannot avoid people. Every time we meet someone new, it is an opportunity to learn from them. Another thing is, if we want to be successful in our business or in life, we must embrace criticism from people who have been where we are and gain the wisdom and knowledge to help us beneficially use our own gifts to get where they have been. Okay? So let's move to number four. There's no rule in receiving criticism. And what I mean about that is that it would help if you didn't stay quiet when you receive criticism. While you don't know, while you don't want to lash out angrily, ask some follow up questions. Acknowledge that you have heard the criticism, but feel free to ask more specific questions that will help you improve yourself for the future or in the future. Con- Constructive criticism isn't valuable unless there's a give and take aspect. You know, take a deep breath before responding. And remember that the best feedback is collaborative, not prescriptive. Have a discussion or a conversation about improvement without taking the criticism personally. You are not perfect. Sorry, but you're not perfect. None of us are. In business, criticism mainly focuses on your role or the situation. And in relationships, it focuses on you as an individual. So you have to learn to deter from the two. If it's at work and you're receiving feedback, ask open ended questions, but don't challenge the feedback. You can ask something like, how can I improve based on your feedback? What suggestions do you have for my next steps? And if this is personal criticism from some type of relationship, um, you may want to say something like, oh, yeah, how so? Can you give me an example? What made you say that about me? Ask these questions so that you can fully understand whether they're being critical to hurt you or whether it's to build you up. So let's move. Number five, accepting constructive criticism without getting defensive. Oh, that is just so hard to do. If you have received criticism that's particularly heavy or contentious, then feel free to ask for some more time to process it, because right then and there, you're going to respond out of emotions. It's always better. It's always better to take a deep breath or a step back than responding in the heat of the moment. Taking time out would allow you to process and think about how you would like to respond. Take control of your reaction. Reactions can be negative, but responding can be positive. Avoid immediately reacting. Feedback can engage our fight or flight response and turn a theoretically helpful session into an adrenaline-filled challenge. So you know what I mean. You're ready to fight. Before responding, take a deep breath and resist the urge to react, respond, or argue. Um, Listen to understand, not to respond. A lot of times when we supposed to be listening to someone, we already thinking of a respond before we even totally or truly heard what that person was saying. When someone is offering constructive criticism, listen without formulating a reply. Like I said, in our heads, we are already thinking of a reply or a defensive response to the feedback. Keep in mind that the person is providing feedback to try to help you, and you should listen with an open mind. Connect the feedback to your role, not to yourself. The feedback feels personal because we think people are criticizing us. But in a business setting, constructive criticism is usually based on your role. Good feedback can help you improve your job performance and often is not as personal as it feels. All right, so number 6, you don't know the whole picture. So here's another perspective. Have you ever been hit with criticism that floored you because it was so out of the blue? If this is the case, remember that you have no idea what the other person is going through. And sometimes you may think, I don't care what they're going through. It's no excuse, because it's no excuse to take it out on you. But sometimes when you receive criticism, it is more about the giver than you. D. Riddle said it like this: other people's reactions to you might be telling you more about themselves than about you. Don't take it personally. So here's some things to consider about the other person's perspective and potential personal issues. One, consider the person and yourself. Is this more about them than it is about me? Ask yourself, are they letting off steam and you happen to get caught in the event? Are they blaming you for things that are their responsibility? Number 2, on the other hand, you ask yourself, is there a pattern to their criticism? Are they fault finding? Are they taking a shot at me? So, got to kind of balance it out, trying to figure out, okay, is this really about me or is it about them? Just one to think, something to think about. So number 7, thank your critic. I know. Why should I thank somebody for saying something negative about me? Responding with a thank you will likely catch your critic by surprise. It is an unexpected response that will actually win them over. They could be impressed with your openness to receiving criticism. Your most prominent critic could end up being your biggest proponent in the end. You know, um, just give it a try. Or maybe you have used this method. If you have, talk about the result. If not, talk about, think about, think about how you can plan to use it the next time. So for me, I'm going to give you my experience. During my earlier tenure in my work profession, I had taken many criticisms from managers and coworkers because they were older than me and I was young and wild. I did not know as much as I thought I did. They saw something in me that I did not see in myself. Finally, one day, I asked a coworker why she was so hard on me. She said, "I'm trying to protect you because people are watching you." Her statement calmed me down and I received understanding. She was grooming me for future promotions in the organization, and also I was gaining personal growth. So all criticism may appear to be harsh or crude, but sometimes when people have your best interests at heart, they're doing it for a reason. You know, also, giving constructive feedback is just as hard as it is in receiving it. So the person giving the criticism, giving you the feedback, it's hard on them too, depending on the person. From that point on, I thank the person for their energy and effort in helping me to improve. Most of the time, they're looking out for my best interest. You can either take the shorter route to success or the long and painful path. It's up to you. It's your choice. All of these are just suggestions, and I'm giving it from my experience. So let's go to number 8. Decompress with a friend. I love this one. You don't have to keep your feelings bottled up, because if you are hit with a particularly hurtful criticism, reach out to a loved one to talk to them about it. They will likely be far better than you at putting things into perspective. They will remind you how wonderful you are, and they will also have your back if the criticism is unwarranted. You know, listen, I'm gonna tell you my experience. So listen, I remember being so frustrated with my manager that I wanted to give her a piece of my mind, no matter what I did or expressed. Well, see, I had a flashback, sorry. No matter what I did to express or explain things, she lacked listening skills and would repeat the same nonsense. One of those do as I say without listening to reasoning. I took my lunch break and called my friend to discuss, what had transpired. She calmed my spirit, making the day much nicer. I could go home, reassess the situation, and make adjustments that were beneficial for my well being. Okay, listen, my well being. I'm so very grateful, for my close friend, because she gets the pleasure of listening to all my hurtful situations. She gives me a different perspective, and we will find some humor that makes me feel better. A pleasant distraction sometimes helps us to reflect on the criticism. A word of caution, though: do not misuse your friend by constantly dumping on them as though they do not go through things. That's a no-no. The relationship should be two-way. Remember, listening and empathy are a two-way street in any relationship. So I want to give you some actionable steps. These are suggestions that you may be able to use. It's only 3. Make a list of people whose criticism you would genuinely value. Think about loved ones, people you care about, or inspirations. Think about the people in your field who have achieved what you want. List them all. Number 2, reflect. Reflection is good. Reflect on the most memorable piece of criticism you received recently. Please write it down and take some time to really think about it. That's important. Was it warranted? Did it help you at all? Sometimes, in retrospect, you can find a lesson that you never even realized you learned. And number 3, start a criticism journal. Every time someone you respect gives you constructive criticism, write it down in a journal. Take some time to consider if it is warranted or not. If it is, create an action plan to address the issues. For example, if you lack skills, how can you acquire them? So, that's it. And as I wrap up this segment of Let's Heal Together, the importance of accepting criticism, please stay tuned for the next episode. So I would like to leave you with a quote from Proverbs to reflect on and help you to be able to accept criticism. And it's coming from Proverbs chapter 15, verses 31 through 33. Whoever heeds life-giving correction will be at home among the wise. Those who disregard discipline despise themselves, but the one who heeds correction gains understanding. Wisdom's instruction is to fear the Lord, and humility comes before honor. Peace and blessing.